This is 8.2a of geometry. So we're going to work with a special triangle, the 45, 45, 90 triangle. So it's a right triangle, right, because it has a 90-degree angle. And the two other angles are 45 degrees. Okay? And we can memorize these sides. We've got S, S, and S square root of 2. So our hypotenuse, to figure out the hypotenuse, you take however long the leg is, right, one of these guys, and you just multiply by the square root of 2, or just put a square root of 2 after it. So, let's look at our got it problem. It says, what is the length of the hypotenuse of a 45, 45, 90 triangle with leg length 5 and square root of 3? So 5 square root of 3 is our leg. We want to know what our hypotenuse is. So we take however long our leg is, so 5 square root of 3, and then we put the square root of 2 on it. Now we're not just going to leave these square root of 2, these two square roots on their own. We're going to combine them. So this is 5 square root of 3 times 2, and it turns into 5 square root 6. Let's try one where there isn't a square root involved. So if we have a 45, 45, 90, and let's say our side length is 3. Then to figure out a hypotenuse, we take our side, 3, and put on the square root of 2. Okay. So first let's try one before we do our got it problem. Let's say we have a 45, 45, 90. And let's say the hypotenuse is 8 square root 2. So to get from the hypotenuse to the leg, we need to divide by the square root of 2. So 8 square root of 2 divided by the square root of 2. Well, these square root of 2 are just going to cancel off, and our leg is going to be 8. So these are both 8. It's a little bit trickier for our got it problem when there isn't a square root with it. So this says that the hypotenuse is 10. So we're going to do the same sort of thing we did over here. We need to take however long the hypotenuse is and divide by the square root of 2. So we have 10 divided by the square root of 2. Nothing to cancel off this time. Also, we're not allowed to leave the square root in the bottom of our fraction, in the denominator. So to get rid of it, we're going to multiply by the square root of 2 over the square root of 2. And here's why. On the top, we get 10 square root 2, but here's what happens on the bottom. The square root of 2 times the square root of 2, that's the same thing as putting them under the same root and having 2 times 2, which is the square root of 4, and we know that the square root of 4 is 2. So this just turns into 2. And then 10 divided by 2, right there, is going to be 5. So this turns into 5 square root 2. So both of our legs are 5 square root 2. In general, just to note, if you do the square root of 3 times the square root of 3, you get 3. If you do the square root of 100 times the square root of 100, you get 100. If you do the square root of 9,000 times the square root of 9,000, you get 9,000. Right? Because what you're doing is you're doing the square root of 2 times the square root of 2. That's the same thing as the square root of 2 squared. And our squared and our root are going to cancel off to leave us 2. Okay. You plan to build a path along one diagonal of a 100-foot by 100-foot square garden. To the nearest foot, how long will the path be? Okay, so we've got this square. It's 100 by 100. Okay, and if we build a path diagonally, these now split into 45-degree angles. So we can look at this top triangle here. So basically we've got a 45, 45, 90 triangle with a side of 100 feet. So we remember, to get to the hypotenuse, we take our side, and we put a square root of 2 with it. They want to know to the nearest foot. So on your calculator, you can do 100 times the square root of 2, and you get approximately 141.4. So we're going to round that to be 141 feet. And there's your homework.